In 1953, the chief executives of the 7 largest American tobacco companies met at the Plaza Hotel in New York City. They had a problem. A study published that year had painted cigarette tar onto the skin of mice. The mice developed cancer at a rate that could not be explained by chance. The scientific evidence linking cigarettes to cancer was becoming impossible to ignore. At that Plaza Hotel meeting, the executives agreed on a strategy. They would not acknowledge the science. They would fund their own research to create the appearance of scientific uncertainty. And they would tell the public that the question was still open. They called it the Frank Statement. It ran as a full-page advertisement in 448 newspapers across the United States on January 4, 1954. It said, "We accept an interest in people's health as a basic responsibility, paramount to every other consideration in our business." The tobacco industry knew cigarettes caused cancer in 1953. They continued selling them for the next 46 years before admitting it publicly. During those 46 years, approximately 10 million Americans died of smoking-related illness. So, what did the industry actually do after that Plaza Hotel meeting? They established something called the Tobacco Industry Research Committee, later renamed the Council for Tobacco Research. Its stated purpose was to fund independent scientific research into tobacco and health. Its actual purpose, documented in internal memos produced during litigation in the 1990s, was to produce scientific uncertainty. And here's the line that tells you everything. A 1969 internal document from Brown and Williamson stated explicitly, "Doubt is our product, since it is the best means of competing with the body of fact that exists in the mind of the general public." The council funded legitimate scientists to conduct genuine research, but selectively. Research that supported the industry's position was publicized. Research that didn't was suppressed, or the researchers were pressured to revise their conclusions. The industry also maintained what internal documents called a special account, research funded directly by lawyers and therefore protected by attorney-client privilege, shielding it from disclosure in litigation. That account funded research into the health effects of cigarettes. The research was never published. Now here's what the tobacco company's own scientists found when they did their own internal research. The findings were unambiguous. A 1963 internal document written by a research director stated, "Nicotine is addictive. We are then in the business of selling nicotine, an addictive drug." A 1972 internal document described cigarettes as a vehicle for delivering nicotine and stated that the company should think of the cigarette as a dispenser for a dose unit of nicotine. Philip Morris conducted internal research throughout the 1980s on how to optimize nicotine delivery. Research that would only be relevant if nicotine's addictive properties were understood and being deliberately manipulated. In 1994, the chief executives of all 7 major tobacco companies testified before Congress under oath. Each one stated that they did not believe nicotine was addictive. The internal documents proving they knew otherwise had existed for decades. And here's something that most people don't know about how the tobacco industry sustained itself long-term. Their internal documents reveal a sustained and deliberate effort to recruit young smokers. The reasoning was explicitly financial. A 1981 Philip Morris document stated that the company needed to ensure young people began smoking because the overwhelming majority of adult smokers had begun before the age of 18. R.J. Reynolds launched the Joe Camel advertising campaign in 1988, a cartoon camel on cigarette packaging and advertising. A 1991 study found that children aged 3 to 6 recognized Joe Camel as readily as they recognized Mickey Mouse. R.J. Reynolds stated the campaign was not targeted at children. Internal documents revealed it had been developed in part using focus groups with teenagers. The FDA attempted to regulate tobacco and restrict cigarette advertising to children in 1996. The Supreme Court ruled in 2000 that the FDA lacked the authority to do so. Congress granted the FDA authority to regulate tobacco in 2009. 55 years after the Frank Statement, the internal documents that revealed all of this were produced through litigation in the 1990s. The breakthrough came in Minnesota, where investigators pursued a case specifically designed to obtain the industry's internal research documents. Those documents, eventually numbering in the millions, revealed that the industry had known since the 1950s that cigarettes caused cancer and were addictive. had funded research specifically to create public doubt, and had deliberately targeted young people in its marketing. In 1998, the four largest tobacco companies reached a settlement with 46 states. They agreed to pay $206 billion over 25 years. They agreed to restrictions on marketing. They admitted no liability. No executive was criminally charged. Philip Morris rebranded as Altria. Its market capitalization today is approximately $90 billion. And here's what you need to understand about why this story matters beyond just cigarettes. The tobacco industry's strategy, fund counter research, manufacture uncertainty, delay regulation, was studied and replicated. A 2015 paper published in the European Journal of Public Health traced the direct connections between tobacco industry consultants and those subsequently hired by the food, alcohol, pharmaceutical, and fossil fuel industries to manage scientific controversies. The same individuals, the same firms, the same strategy. Documents from ExxonMobil show the company's scientists accurately modeling climate change in 1982, while the company's public affairs department funded organizations disputing the science. The template was identical to the 1954 Frank Statement. It was not a coincidence. The Frank Statement ran in 448 newspapers on January 4, 1954. It said the tobacco companies accepted responsibility for people's health as paramount to every other consideration. 10 million Americans died of smoking-related illness in the years that followed. When the documents were finally produced in litigation, they revealed an industry that had conducted some of the most extensive research into its products' health effects in corporate history. They had simply never told anyone what they found. The industry is still operating. Cigarettes still kill approximately 480,000 Americans per year. The Frank Statement is still technically corporate policy.